The Galactic Combat Academy's Grand Amphitheater buzzed with nervous energy as 3,000 cadets from 17 different species filled the tiered seats. Commander Vexthera adjusted her purple ceremonial robes, her four eyes scanning the crowd with barely concealed amusement. Today would be educational. Attention, cadets, her voice boomed through the bioacoustic amplifiers. For the past 6 cycles, you have trained in theoretical combat scenarios. You have studied the art of warfare from your climate-controlled classrooms. You have memorized the 17 fundamental principles of engagement. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the sea of eager faces. Today you meet your first real opponent. A collective murmur rippled through the audience. The Krillian delegates clicked their mandibles excitedly. The gas-based Zephyrians shimmered with anticipation. Even the notoriously stoic granite folk showed hints of curiosity in their rocky expressions. Behold, Vexthera gestured dramatically toward the arena floor, where a massive containment unit began to rise from the depths. The apex predator of the Deathworld, known as Terra, captured at great expense and considerable casualties, to our retrieval teams. The containment unit's energy barriers flickered and died, revealing the creature within. Gasps echoed throughout the amphitheater. Several cadets actually fainted. It was disappointingly small. Where they expected scales, they found pink flesh. Where they anticipated razor claws, they discovered blunt fingernails. Where massive fangs should have gleamed, only flat white teeth were visible. The thing stood barely 2 meters tall, possessed only 2 eyes, and wore the most peculiar covering of blue fabric and white foot wrappings. This, whispered Cadet Urinx to his neighbor, is supposed to be terrifying? The human female for the Academy's xenobiologists had determined its gender through invasive scans, looked around the amphitheater with curious brown eyes. She appeared to be taking inventory of the exits, studying the energy barriers, and counting the number of weapons pointed in her direction, all while maintaining what the Academy's emotion readers categorized as mild amusement. Incredible, Commander Vexthera continued, clearly enjoying the confused murmurs from her audience. This specimen survived 3 standard years on a planet where 96% of the surface is hostile to life. It consumed other apex predators for sustenance. It built shelters from the bones of its enemies. Excuse me, the human interrupted, raising one hand politely. Are you talking about me? The amphitheater fell silent. Several translators sparked and died, unable to process the casual tone the creature used while addressing a superior officer. Vexthera's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of profound confusion among her species. You understand Galactic Standard? She managed. Oh sure, the human replied, examining her fingernails with apparent boredom. Picked it up from your retrieval team. Nice guys, by the way. Very chatty once you get to know them. Speaking of which, how are Lieutenants Corks and Drimmel doing? Still in the medical bay? Dead silence. Commander Vexthera cleared her throat and regained her composure. This was not going according to the carefully planned demonstration. As I was saying, cadets, this creature represents the pinnacle of evolutionary survival. Today, one of you will face it in single combat to prove your worthiness as a future officer of the Galactic Defense Force. 3,000 hands, claws, tentacles, and various other appendages shot into the air simultaneously. The cadets were practically vibrating with excitement. Finally, a chance to prove themselves against a real enemy. Finally, an opportunity to show their superiority over these primitive bipeds. The human girl, according to her file, her designation was Maya Hendricks, looked at the eager crowd and smiled. It was not, the Academy's emotion readers noted with growing alarm, a pleasant smile. Oh, this is going to be fun, she said quietly, cracking her knuckles. The sound made several cadets involuntarily step backward. Commander Vexthera consulted her datapad, scrolling through the volunteer list. Cadet Thorax-Nine of the Hive Collective, you have shown exceptional promise in hand-to-hand combat simulations. A massive insectoid creature, nearly 3 meters tall and built like a living siege engine, descended to the arena floor. His chitinous armor gleamed under the amphitheater lights, and his forearms ended in razor-sharp talons that could slice through battle steel. The crowd cheered appreciatively. Maya studied her opponent with the same expression she might use while choosing fruit at a market. Big guy, huh? Let me guess. Natural armor plating, redundant organ systems, probably stronger than a freight loader. Thorax-Nine clicked his mandibles menacingly. Prepare to be consumed, soft flesh. Soft flesh? Maya laughed, a sound that somehow managed to be both musical and deeply unsettling. You know what, bug boy? I like you already. You're going to be fun to break. The referee, a nervous crystalline being whose natural transparency had turned completely opaque with stress, raised his arm. Combat will commence on my signal. Victory conditions are submission, unconsciousness, or death, Maya finished helpfully. Don't worry, referee. I'll try to keep him mostly intact. The rules clearly state that lethal force is prohibited. Oh, I know the rules, Maya interrupted, beginning to stretch in ways that made several xenobiologists frantically scribble notes. I read them while your retrieval team was explaining how they were going to display me like a zoo animal. Fascinating reading, really. Very thorough. Commander Vexthera felt the first stirring of genuine unease. Something about the human's tone suggested she had found loopholes in the Academy's carefully constructed regulations. Begin, the referee squeaked. Thorax-Nine launched himself forward with the speed of a professional gladiator. All forearms extended, talons gleaming. The crowd held its breath, anticipating the swift and inevitable conclusion. Maya sidestepped. That was all. One simple, fluid motion that somehow left the massive insectoid grasping at empty air and crashing into the arena wall with enough force to crack the reinforced stone. Rule number 1, Maya called out conversationally. Momentum is not your friend when you miss. Thorax-Nine shook his head, dazed but far from defeated. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world where such impacts were routine. He spun around, bringing 2 of his arms down in a devastating arc that would have pulverized a normal opponent. Maya caught both arms at the wrists. The impact should have driven her into the ground. The laws of physics demanded that her smaller mass be overwhelmed by his superior strength and leverage. Instead, she held firm, her feet planted solidly on the arena floor, her muscles coiled like loaded springs. Rule number 2, she said, her voice still perfectly calm. Leverage works both ways. She twisted. The sound of Thorax-Nine's joints dislocating echoed throughout the silent amphitheater. His confident mandible clicking transformed into a screech of pain as Maya used his own momentum to flip him over her shoulder and slam him into the ground with bone-rattling force. Impossible, whispered Cadet Zilfex. Her muscle density readings show she should be incapable of generating that much force. Maya dusted off her hands and looked up at the stunned crowd. Anyone else want to try? I'm just getting warmed up. Commander Vexthera's 4 eyes were now blinking in rapid, panicked succession. This was not how the demonstration was supposed to proceed. The human should have been overwhelmed within seconds, providing a valuable lesson about overconfidence and the importance of tactical preparation. Instead, she had just dismantled one of their most promising cadets with what appeared to be casual effort. Cadet Vorthak, the commander called desperately. You're next. A hulking granite folk descended to the arena, his stone-like hide immune to most forms of physical damage. If the human couldn't hurt Thorax-Nine's chitin, she certainly couldn't affect living rock. Maya looked at her new opponent and grinned. Oh, this keeps getting better. Vorthak was impressive, even by granite folk standards. His crystalline matrix body stood 4 meters tall, each limb capable of punching through starship hulls. His species had evolved in the crushing depths of gas giant cores, where pressure could flatten lesser beings into atomic paste. He moved with the inexorable certainty of a geological event. Human, his voice rumbled like shifting tectonic plates. Your tricks will not work on stone. Maya tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle she was eager to solve. You know what's funny about stone? It's really good at one thing. She picked up a handful of arena dust and let it trickle through her fingers. Compression. But you know what stone absolutely hates? Vorthak charged, his massive fist swinging in arcs that displaced enough air to knock smaller cadets from their seats. Maya didn't dodge this time. Instead, she dropped to one knee and struck the arena floor with her palm. The impact sent a hairline crack racing across the stone surface. Vibration, she finished. What happened next would be studied in xenophysics classes for generations. Maya began to move, not in the fluid martial arts style she had used against Thorax-Nine, but in sharp staccato bursts. Each contact with Vorthak's stone hide produced a precise sonic frequency, carefully calculated to match his crystalline resonance. The big granite folk warrior lasted exactly 37 seconds before his entire body structure began to harmonically destabilize. He collapsed into a pile of very confused pebbles. Medical team to the arena, Maya called helpfully, and bring some cement. He'll be fine once you get him properly reassembled. The amphitheater had gone beyond silence into something approaching religious awe. 3,000 cadets stared at the small human who had just defeated 2 of their champions using nothing but physics and an apparently intimate knowledge of alien biology. Commander Vexthera's ceremonial robes were now soaked with nervous perspiration. How, she whispered into her communicator. How does a primitive biped know our resonance frequencies? Commander, her aide replied with barely controlled panic. The xenobiology team just finished analyzing her brain scans. She's been studying us. The entire time she's been contained, she's been memorizing our physiology, our weaknesses, our tactical doctrines," Maya interrupted, apparently having overheard the communication despite it being on a supposedly secure channel. "Don't forget those. Really interesting reading, by the way. Very predictable. You folks have a tendency to rely on overwhelming force instead of, actual strategy." She gestured at the crowd of increasingly nervous cadets. "Send down your next volunteer. I'm running out of afternoon here." "This is madness," muttered Cadet Kyrex, a Zephyrian whose gaseous form was flickering with anxiety. "She's toying with us." "Of course I am," Maya replied, her enhanced hearing picking up the comment despite the distance. "Did you think I wouldn't notice your little demonstration was designed to humiliate me? Behold the primitive Deathworld savage." She mimicked Commander Vexthera's earlier tone perfectly. "Watch our superior cadets defeated for honor." The human's smile had taken on a distinctly predatory quality. "So I figured I'd return the favor. Who wants to go next?" Commander Vexthera made a desperate decision. "Cadet Nexus Prime, deploy Battle Configuration 7. A collective gasp ran through the audience. Battle Configuration 7 was reserved for planetary assault scenarios. Nexus Prime was a collective intelligence controlling 12 individual combat drones, each equipped with energy weapons and tactical shielding. It wasn't just unfair, it was potentially lethal. The drones descended to the arena floor, their weapons charging with ominous whines. Maya watched them deploy into a perfect tactical formation with obvious appreciation. "Now that's more like it," she said, cracking her neck. "Finally, someone who understands the value of teamwork." "Surrender now, human." Nexus Prime's synthesized voice echoed from all 12 drones simultaneously. "You cannot defeat superior technology and coordination." Maya laughed, a sound that somehow conveyed both genuine amusement and imminent violence. "Superior coordination? Really? Let me show you what humans call psychological warfare." She picked up a piece of debris from Vorthak's earlier collapse and threw it at the nearest drone. The chunk of stone bounced harmlessly off the drone's energy shielding. All 12 units tracked the projectile's trajectory with perfect precision, their tactical computers calculating threat vectors and response protocols, which is exactly what Maya had counted on. While they were analyzing a harmless rock, she moved, not the fluid grace she had shown against Thorax-Nine, not the calculated precision she had used against Vorthak, but pure predatory speed. She reached the first drone before its sensors could recalibrate, grabbed its weapon array, and used it as a club to destroy the second unit. "Rule number 3, she called out cheerfully, dismantling the third drone with its own severed components. "Predictable behavior patterns are exploitable behavior patterns." What followed was less a fight than a systematic demonstration of human adaptability. Maya turned the drone's coordination against them, using their tactical programming to predict their movements. She employed their own weapons as improvised tools, their shielding as leverage points, their communication network as a means to confuse and misdirect. In under 2 minutes, 12 state-of-the-art military drones had been reduced to a pile of sparking scrap metal and very expensive spare parts. Maya dusted off her hands and looked up at the stunned audience. "Anyone else? I've still got some energy left." Dead silence greeted her offer. Commander Vexthera slowly descended to the arena floor, her 4 eyes wide with something between terror and professional curiosity. "How?" she asked quietly. "Your species was classified as barely sentient. Your technology is primitive. Your world hasn't achieved interstellar travel. How do you know our weaknesses better than we do?" Maya's expression softened slightly, the predatory edge replaced by something that might have been pity. "Commander, you made the same mistake every advanced civilization makes when they encounter humans. You looked at our technology level and assumed that meant we were inferior." She gestured at the debris surrounding them. "But you know what you didn't consider? Humans have been fighting each other for our entire evolutionary history. We've had wars that lasted decades, centuries. We've developed tactics for every conceivable scenario, weapons for every possible enemy, strategies for every type of terrain." Her voice took on a lecturing tone, as if she were addressing students instead of her captors. "Your species evolved on worlds where they became apex predators early. You developed advanced technology as tools of exploration and creation, which is admirable, really. Very civilized." The smile returned, sharp and knowing. "Humans developed advanced tactics as tools of survival and destruction. We've been imagining how to kill things bigger, stronger, and better equipped than us since we first picked up rocks, and decided the mammoth looked tasty." Commander Vexthera felt her species' natural confidence crumbling like cheap armor. What do you want?" Maya looked around the amphitheater, taking in the sea of frightened faces, the smoking remains of military hardware, and the growing realization among her audience that they had captured something far more dangerous than they had intended. "Want?" she repeated as if the question surprised her. "Commander, I don't want anything from you. You already gave me exactly what I came here for. Which is?" Maya's grin widened, showing those flat white teeth that suddenly seemed far more threatening than any fangs. "Intelligence. You've shown me your capabilities, your tactics, your technology, and most importantly, your weaknesses. You've given me a complete tactical assessment of 17 different species' military potential." The horrible realization began to dawn on faces throughout the crowd. This hadn't been a demonstration of human inferiority. It had been reconnaissance. "Did you really think," Maya continued conversationally, "that your retrieval team captured me by accident? Did you honestly believe that a species capable of surviving on a Deathworld couldn't handle a few kidnappers with fancy technology?" Commander Vexthera's voice came out as a whisper. You let them take you. Obviously. How else was I going to get inside your most secure military installation, evaluate your defensive capabilities, and identify your tactical doctrines? Maya stretched, working out the kinks from her recent exercises. "By the way, your containment systems are laughably inadequate. I could have left any time I wanted." She looked up at the thousands of cadets who were now staring at her with expressions of dawning horror. But this was much more educational. "Thanks for the free intelligence briefing, everyone. Earth's Defense Council will find it very useful when we start expanding beyond our solar system." The amphitheater erupted into chaos as the implications sank in. These weren't primitive savages they had captured for entertainment. They were advanced scouts for a species that had been preparing for interstellar warfare since before most civilizations had discovered fire. Maya walked calmly toward the arena exit, pausing only to pat Commander Vexthera on the shoulder. "Don't worry, Commander. When we come calling, we'll be sure to give you plenty of warning. It's only fair after such excellent hospitality." As she reached the exit, she turned back one final time. "Oh, and tell your medical team that Thorax-Nine's joints will heal better if they reset them in the original configuration. Vorthak needs about 6 hours to naturally reconsolidate, and Nexus Prime's backup consciousness should already be integrating the combat data from this encounter." She waved cheerfully at the stunned audience. "See you all real soon?" The blast doors sealed behind her, leaving 3,000 future military officers to contemplate the terrifying possibility that humanity's idea of diplomacy involved voluntary capture, systematic intelligence gathering, and what could only be described as recreational psychological warfare. Commander Vexthera sank into her ceremonial chair. Her 4 eyes focused on the empty arena where a single human had just redefined the galactic balance of power. "Send an immediate message to the High Council," she whispered to her aide. "Priority Alpha. Subject first contact protocols require immediate revision. Threat assessment, extinction level." The aide's hands trembled as he composed the message. What should I tell them about the human? Vexthera watched the blast doors where Maya Hendricks had disappeared, already imagining the reports that would soon flood in from across the galaxy. Reports of humans appearing at military installations, trade posts, and diplomatic stations, all of them smiling, all of them asking innocent questions, all of them learning. "Tell them," she said quietly, "that we just met our new neighbors, and they've been preparing for this meeting much longer than we have.